What really turns attendance around is to put in a comprehensive tiered support system.
Look at, different kids at different levels and the kinds of supports they need to be in school. So what can we do, and this is kind of the tier one. So what can we do to educate families and students about the importance of attendance, why it matters, what you can do about it.
I have realized that I needed to work with the parents and start communicating with the parents in order to get them to understand how important that it was for their children to be at school every day. So we started at parent meetings. We would talk about attendance. I would tell my teachers when we had parent-teacher conferences, when the parents come to pick up the report cards, make sure they talk about attendance and how important it is for them to be at school and how it affects their academics when they're not at school, or if they're always tardy or consistently tardy, that's going to affect their children's academic outcome.
The very first part of the Tier 1 work is ensuring kids are motivated to want to be there.
Thank you so much. How's your morning going?
Good.
I'm glad to hear that.
Make sure that from the front office to the classroom to the cafeteria to wherever, that the school is a welcoming place that students and parents want to be.
It's also about the school looking at their data. So that's another Tier 1 strategy in figuring out which children are having satisfactory attendance, which ones are chronically absent, maybe which ones are at risk.
And Riley and Johnny came in. What about Jackson?
Every morning at about 8:05, we meet in the office and start analyzing that data so we can celebrate with the students and the families that are no longer on our target list, and begin to help problem solve with the families who have slipped onto our target list.
And once you've identified some of those things, then you can start to think about the Tier 2 strategies for those students who are at risk or maybe chronically absent. And that's where it becomes much more of a one-on-one interaction. So, you've identified students and it's reaching out to those families and seeing what's happening. Is there something we can do to help? Is there a problem?
Look at that 10%. Look at the students who have missed more than 10% of the school year. They are at risk. Write their names down, know who they are. Start building relationships with them. Start building relationships with their families.
I went to some homes where they say the students didn't have clean clothes, and at that point I say, get your clothes together, give them to me. I wash them and take them back for the kids can come home. You find situations where you have seen instances where food may be a barrier. They hungry, whatever the need is, get them there. Some of them say they sick and need to go to the doctor, hadn't had a ride to the doctor. So if that's what the situation is, then I set up appointments they haven't already, and I take them to the doctor.
But it's also about looking at the systemic issues. And so, if you look at your data and you see that there is a subgroup of students, is it kindergarten students, is it the Marshallese students in Springdale, then maybe we can start to think about a systemic approach that addresses a group of students and not just that one-on-one. Tier 3 students are really the ones that are the most severely chronically absent. They're at the top of the pyramid. It's a very small chunk, and that's the way you want to keep it. And really, the whole goal of a tiered approach is to have as few families as possible in that by doing preventive, proactive strategies.
La enfermera ya llamó a la clínica allá en Rogers.
So Tier 3 often requires deeper coordination with other services and agencies who might be in contact or who should be in contact, because the nature of the supports that kids are going to need really require not just a personal touch and outreach and problem solving with the kid, but really securing some additional needed resources to make sure that a child has an opportunity to show up to school.
When it gets to Tier 3, that's probably the families with very serious, maybe they're homeless, serious substance abuse issues, maybe there's domestic violence in the home, and it's often where the courts get involved. There's an acronym called FINS, which is Families in Need of Services. Often that becomes a very punitive thing, but the very nature, it is families in need of services. So ideally, it's about helping those families get the supports they actually need.
Do we want to criminalize our kids or their parents? No, it's not what we want to do. We want to make sure that we have care for them, compassion, and that we love them.